Thank you guys for joining me here on this last segment of today's show. We started off by talking about the Dallas Cowboys in their matchup tonight against the Giants, just set to kick off here in less than an hour Eastern time, of course. But I wanted to bring up this statement that Micah Parsons made. I guess you could say again about his teammates and the defense up until now. Not just Micah, but I mentioned this week how we see how the Dallas Cowboys players have all been showing their frustration, speaking about it to the media. But the question I posed was, when is this talk gonna, finally show up on the field, right? Because it's easier, obviously, to talk and say that, oh, we're just not playing great. DeMarcus Lawrence saying they're playing Little League football. Dak saying that they just have to focus up a little bit more and hone in on the game plan. Michael Parsons saying that they don't need everybody to be Superman, to just stick to their job. When are we actually going to see it now on the field, right? Because it's 2 weeks now that anything, whatever they said, hasn't been the case at all. I'm interested to see when they're going to finally show us something, right? Not just talk about it, because talk can only give you and last you so long before it's just noise rather than people actually listening to what you have to say. And holding teammates accountable publicly isn't a bad thing, in my opinion, once or twice. But because this defense especially has been so bad, it's, I don't want to say forced Micah, but I think more media, I think, just also in their right, have gone over to Micah to get his thoughts on it, right? He's the one that seems very adamant and very carefree, I guess you could say, about talking about the defensive struggles and kind of calling people out, calling the defense out for attention in a lot of these statements. And he's always talking about it, it seems. We see a lot of quotes from him, and it's all in good efforts, right, to try and create a change, right? That's the intention behind what he's trying to say. He's not trying to put anybody down or anything like that. But with no change coming, apparently from weeks 2 to week 3, because Kamara ran for 115 yards, then Derrick Henry ran for another 151 on them in back-to-back games. Now you have the Giants coming in here, coming off of their first win. Most believe this is the ideal game for the Cowboys to kind of get right in this situation, but it's all about how they go about that. And I don't think anybody would really care if they win by 3 points or anything like that, if it meant that their run defense stifled the Giants so much that they were only able to put up 7 or 10 points and less than 100 rushing yards. And that's where the change is trying to get produced, right, in that run defense. And that's where Micah talks about it and where he makes some of the comments that he makes, but I'm not really a fan of how he does it, right? You could do it, but I think it's how you do it rather than just what you say that really makes the difference a lot of the times, especially as obviously one of the leaders, not just of the defense, but of the entire team. Micah Parsons said on Tuesday, he was asked about if his message will be put into action this upcoming week, tonight, on Thursday Night Football, and he said, everyone is nodding their head like they all agree, but at the same time, it's not happening out there on the field. I'm too prideful. I feel like as a competitor, you've got to be prideful and say, hey, I'm not going to allow this to happen to me. I just feel like some people are allowing themselves to keep getting smacked in the face. And it's very, very unfiltered, I guess you could say. But in one hand, you understand it, again, because you're Micah, you're frustrated out there. You are one of the leaders on this team. You have to hold people accountable, obviously, right? If you see any sort of lackluster effort, anybody out there not really showing any fight or any want, giving up too quickly, again, publicly saying something about the defense, the entire team is fine. I think, holding your teammates accountable, I think that's all right. That's fine to do as a leader. But I'm not a fan of the slight call-outs a little bit to the teammates, right? He doesn't specify any names, but I get wanting to step up as a leader, but again, it's how you say it and how, as a leader, you don't treat everybody, I guess, the same is ideally what my message is, right? Because some people, hearing these remarks, it could hit some people a better way than it hits other people, right? Some people might receive it better than others, right? Others might not like the criticism, especially if it happens a couple weeks in a row. Then maybe they don't perform well again this week, and Micah says something again and mentions some people. That could really rub people the wrong way, and the intention is good, right? But how he's going about saying it by saying some people here or there, how the other day he mentioned how some people are just trying to be Superman out there. They're not sticking to their assignments. They don't need that. Players obviously know who they are and when they're not playing well. So it could also be the defensive scheme also not changing. That's been a critique of mine as well. But it ultimately comes down to the players, like Micah Parsons alludes in some of these comments by saying some people, right? Same thing with Dexter Lawrence. He's also said that it's frustrating when the game plan is there, but some people don't follow the game plan. And it always feels like a bit of spite in some of these comments. And it's not the energy you kind of feel or that is needed for this defense to kind of get themselves out of this hole, because everybody always says when they're trying to auto-critique the defense or trying to call out their teammates or hold them accountable that it's on everybody, right? Everybody needs to play better. That's usually what people say. But when you say some people and then maybe later on you kind of add yourself into some of these comments, some of these sectioned off comments when you're saying some people and then in other statements you're saying everyone, it could rub people the wrong way. And although it's a locker room that already feels kind of shaky, if you add on more losses to it, plus some people hearing Micah's comments, some other comments made by other teammates, right? And you add losing on top of that, some won't like these remarks, and then you have more of a problem within the locker room and you create more of a divide rather than having everybody come together to a common goal, right? I don't think that calling some people out like this and saying some people over and over again is the right way to go about it. Now, is this helping them or hurting them? If I had to make that decision, I would say that it's more helping, I guess, because it puts more pressure on these guys to kind of change their approach to the game, whether or not they are being disciplined or whether or not they are sticking to the game plan. But I don't see it as a way where you kind of have to group everyone together or maybe kind of specify some people in some of these remarks where you get the chance to highlight some of these issues. You can do that without, pointing out some people, right? Because then it becomes a point where people start wondering and asking who are those players? Who is that one guy that's not doing it? And that could slip out at some point. And then rather than everything getting better by the performances, it could just still be a very icy situation in the locker room. And I don't really think that's where this team needs to be right now, with so many people focusing in on these outside comments on what the players are saying after the game rather than how they're playing on the field is not ideally where you want to be also. And some might even receive it as a way where Micah keeps talking to them about improving and he keeps mentioning some people. Why isn't he playing better? Obviously, right? Some people could take it like that, right? Micah's not playing lights out by any means. He hasn't really been making a contribution pass rushing, obviously, because they've been down, but also in the running game. That's almost on everybody. So that's just as much Micah Parsons as it is some people, like he mentioned. So, it's not the right attitude by continually calling people out like this. And you could, point to Micah as well by not performing well in his own right. So if he keeps calling people out, but he's not holding up his end of the bargain, then what are we really doing here? What change are we trying to make if Micah's not helping out, if the defense is still not working out as a whole? It's not what you want to be hearing from a team that's 1-2 right now, trying to get everything together and still trying to create these divided teams, like with some of these comments, right? I feel like they just need to worry about less about making some of these comments, and rather, if you have something to say to some people, you got to make it privately. And I know it seems like a hard thing to do for the Cowboys to make some of these things private, but if you really feel like, some people are just not doing their job, do it privately, go up to them, approach them, and I'm sure they might be doing that, but these outside comments as well, I don't think really help too much in the way that they're doing it. The action is fine. I just feel like they have to clean it up a little bit more when and if they talk to the media. Sometimes they could say no. They could say no to speaking to the media. That's another thing that people aren't too happy about, having to hear Micah always talk to the media. I think saying no once in a while could do him a lot better than just talking and having to respond to some of these questions. But we'll see if they could finally put these actions or these words into actions in just a few minutes here before kickoff. But now that does wrap it up for today's show. Thank you guys for joining me on today's episode of the Chip Shot Football Podcast. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. Check out both YouTube channels for more coverage around the NFL and more footage about the Chip Shot Football Podcast as well. And tune in every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more stories, discussions, everything around the NFL with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thanking you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys back here tomorrow to recap the game tonight and also look ahead to the games on Sunday.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to